Justin Thomas is one of my current favorite players, and there's just so much to like. I love how much power he creates so effortlessly. I love his silky smooth rhythm, and I love that he's a big money player too. But I think he can do some small things to upgrade his golf swing so he doesn't have stretches where he kind of tends to disappear like he did at the Masters this year. So right after this, I'm going to show you a drill that I think will work so well for Justin Thomas that it may make him a billionaire. And a lot of you out there watching do some of the same things that he does. It gives you a little bit of a problem with directional control, and I think it will help you too. So stay tuned. Hey, this is Steve from HitItLonger.com. So let's take a look at a swing, an iron swing of Justin Thomas. And I want to point out a few things about his swing that, although he's got probably top 10 in the world hands, and he's been swinging this way probably his entire life, I want to show you some of the things about his swing that I think make it a little bit harder for him to control the club face. I want you to take a look at his thigh and his back foot, and he tends to be someone who moves those a little bit this way. So he kind of thrusts the thigh towards the ball a little bit and picks his heel way up like this. You also notice there's a little bit of a tendency to get the rump moving a little forward like this. Now, what you see after that, what that causes, it's like a chain reaction from these events. Of course, he'd like ideally to bring the hand path or the handle back to about a 1 hand span from the thigh. But of course, if his action does this, then his thigh is now occupying that space. So it forces the left arm a little bit further out from the chest, and it ends up getting him just a little bit stuck. You can see it last parallel. Now again, this is so tiny for, because tour pros, they make increments that are really, really tiny, centimeters at a time. Some of us at home, we might look more like this, where our club is 6 or 8 inches kind of stuck inside the handle. He's just like an inch or so inside the handle. The next thing you see, as his body gets a little bit tall from this action, and the shaft starts to get a little bit tall, and then you'll see that his club face, where the money is made, the club face is going a little bit more open to close to the impact zone. You can see the toe work its way over, and it's not quite square to square. And I think this gets him in a little bit of trouble with dispersion from left to right when he's off. Of course, again, not bagging on him at all. He's an absolutely fantastic player. I think that at times this type of swing can be a little temperamental when controlling the club face. And again, guys on tour at that level, they're playing on a tight wire. They're walking a tight wire, just a little bit off in their timing week to week, and they can really plummet. It's so competitive out there. Any small thing can give them a huge advantage. So let's take a look at the exercise. If you've been watching my channel, you might have seen this drill last week. I call it the handspan drill. Justin Thomas is the perfect candidate for that exercise, and I think could potentially make him a billionaire because it's going to help him fix every aspect of the swing that I've just described. All right, so last week I was showing you this drill for the first time with my golf bag and a long club pulled out, and I was using the head cover to help keep my left arm in a little tighter to the chest, tighter to the right thigh and pocket as it passes down into the ball. This week, and this is a probably simpler method for a lot of you out there, I've just got a noodle and I've got a microphone stand. This is just the simple $20 one you can get on Amazon. And of course the noodles are probably $5. So very cheap investment if you're someone who gets stuck and blocks it and flips it. However, this is not only going to help with the hand path, but it's also going to help him modify the footwork, the thigh, the rear end, and the little bit of the early extension that he's got in his swing that makes the shaft and the hand path get a little bit out of position, and it makes him have to be a little bit timing dependent with his club face. Some weeks he's going to have it. There's sometimes during the year there'll be a stretch typically where his timing will be a little bit off. This is why his swing is so tempo related, and you see him doing such beautiful tempo work when he practices. So look and see how this thing works. I've got this, well, you can see it's about a spread out hand span from my pocket. I've got it about even with my right hip, but don't panic. I'm going to show you the exercise from the face on in a second. But you can see what this will do is cause you to come back in and get that hand path curving early and get the head of the club and the shaft tipping, some people say, or tumbling to the outside of the thigh. So notice the response I get just by missing this and bringing that arm in closer to the body. I get more of this look on the way down. I just got to keep it curving around past the left thigh, and I can get out of that stuck club shaft and head, blocky, flippy pattern. So let's take a look at one. All I've got to do to win the game here is to make sure that my left arm and wrist just don't touch the pad, and I win. And just by missing that, I'm going to have a tendency, so Justin Thomas would look more like this coming into it, and he'd have a hard time missing this pad. But what it's going to train him to do, it's not going to allow him to raise the foot so much and thrust the thigh into it, thrust the rear into it, because all of a sudden his pathway is now closed. It's going to force his arm out to here. That's going to keep the handle path from turning the corner early enough, and it's going to get his club just ever so slightly stuck inside the handle. A little bit of a tall shaft and a little bit of a flipped over toe. Now, wouldn't we all like to be off by just a half an inch or an inch? Wouldn't that be wonderful? But when you're playing at that level, definitely keep you from making it all the way back to number one again. So if you watch this in slow motion, you'll see I cannot allow my left thigh to thrust in. My foot's got to break this way. My butt's got to stay back. This is going to help the shaft come in a little lower and closer to my pocket, come on around the corner, the good curving, arcing hand path that will help throw the club to the outside of the handle this way and get it to come in square, where I have to do less application of this kind of torque here. You can see there in the replay that compared to Justin Thomas, I'm not saying that my swing is better, but you can see the subtle differences that this forces. It forces my heel to stay down a little bit more and not come way up, but instead I'll roll inwards, my butt will stay back. So I'll keep a little bit more forward bend at the hips, a little better hand path, and it's going to force a little bit of a shallower shaft angle coming in, a little lower handle at impact, and just a tiny bit less rolling of that club face in the key area right through impact. Now I think if Justin Thomas did this little exercise, I personally think he'd make a nice improvement and his consistency playing out on tour. I think for you guys that have some of these same issues, and I see this type of swing all the time in my teaching, I think this can be a real saver for you, get you out of the stuck position. For those of you who saw it last week, I'm glad you watched again. You can see how you can do it. Set this up with a noodle and a microphone stand. And JT, if you watch this and you make $1 billion, hey, I just want 1% commission. That's all I want. No big deal. All right, I'm going to go back and practice because this is one of my weak areas too. I'm going to keep practicing this until I can hit it really straight every time. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Steve, and as usual, I'll either see you in the next video or I'll see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Everybody take good care.